What's up guys? Today we are going to be chatting a little bit about moving to Los Angeles. Here comes Molly. Come on down. Hi. I feel like I get questions about this all the time, not only from just people online asking what it's like, but also just friends or random people. Molly. So I went on Instagram and I asked you guys what sort of questions you had pertaining to this. So if you are considering moving out of a smaller town into a bigger city, or just making a change to a different big city, I feel like this is gonna be helpful for you. At least I hope so. So grab a notebook, grab some pen, take notes in your phone, and let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to be covering is how to know what area you want to live in. If it's a city that you're not as familiar with, it can be really hard knowing where to move. For example, in LA, there are lots of different factors that come into play. Let's start with where your job is. Now, this is actually really important, especially in a city like Los Angeles where public transit is not that extensive and traffic is insane. So wherever you are going to work, you are definitely going to want to try to live in that general area. I used to work about 6 miles away from where I live, and it would take me an hour to get there every day and an hour to get home. 10 miles away, I imagine would be closer to an hour and a half or 2 hours each way. You don't want to do that. Trust me, it's not worth it. No matter what the job is, no matter what the apartment is, not worth it. So you definitely want to live in that general area, or make sure that there's easy access to transit from your apartment to wherever you are going to work and back. You also obviously want to take into consideration the safety factor. And this is really simple to do. You can just type in Santa Monica crime rates and see what pops up. It's a pretty easy process. That being said, I live in downtown Los Angeles, and I'm sure if you type in downtown Los Angeles crime rates, it would not be good stats. You know, downtown is like a real city. There's a lot of crime that happens here. That being said, the building that I live in is extremely safe. I have 24-hour security in my building. It's just very secure. They have a lot of security measures in place. So I'm never that worried about it. And I'm also just smart. I don't walk places alone at 10 p.m. Even if it's a short Uber, I call an Uber because it's worth it. I also just want to say nothing bad has ever happened to me in downtown. I just keep to myself, have my AirPods in, I just walk, and for the most part, no one bothers you. Even if people yell stuff at you, I just ignore it, and you know, it's fine. So you can also take that into consideration, but obviously if it is something that you're worried about, if you get a lot of anxiety about bad things happening, you might want to live in a safer area than downtown, for example. And lastly, obviously you have to figure out what areas you can afford to live in. Specific to Los Angeles, the west side, which would be like Santa Monica, Venice, Century City, Beverly Hills, all of those areas are going to be much more expensive to live in than the east side, which would be, I think downtown pretty much falls into the east side, Hollywood, Silver Lake, Echo Park, places like that. And then you can move into the valley, which is probably the most affordable place to live. More than likely, there are like trendy areas of the valley that have become more expensive to live in, but you can definitely find the most affordable places in the valley. I think that that's where most people move when they first move to Los Angeles. I personally moved to Hollywood when I first moved to LA and was able to find really affordable places there as well. A simple way of thinking about it: west side most expensive, east side middle, valley least expensive. And if you want to do a little bit of your own research, I recommend just Googling average incomes in whatever area you're thinking about, and that should give you an idea of whether you can afford a place there or not. But keep in mind, there are always gems. You can always find little hidden deals and stuff like that. It may not be your dream apartment, but I feel like you can probably find something that you can afford in whatever area you want to live in. The next biggest question I get is how much money you need before you move to Los Angeles. The typical number that I give is $10,000 in savings, although that might be a little low. You might want to be closer to like 12 or 15. Definitely as much as you possibly can, you want to have saved, because there are going to be a lot of expenses that you just don't even expect. First and foremost, just getting to Los Angeles, probably flying there from wherever you are. You may have to ship some of your stuff. That could be expensive. And then you may need to stay in an Airbnb or a hotel or with a friend while you're apartment searching if you don't already have something lined up. That's going to be an expense. And then once you actually get the place that you want to live in, you have to put down a security deposit, usually first month's rent. There's just a lot of expenses. And then once you're in, you have to be able to furnish your new apartment. So that right there is obviously a very large chunk of money. All of those things cost more than you probably expect. So the more money you can have saved up, the better. I definitely recommend having like 3 months rent saved up in your bank account, and then all of those expenses sort of on top of that. Maybe 3 months is a little dramatic, but you never know how long it's going to take you to get a job, and you don't want to be in a situation where you can't afford to live in Los Angeles when you just moved here. And just sticking with money, let's chat a little bit about creating a budget. Now, I'll be honest, I've never really followed a specific budget for myself before, so I'm not necessarily the best person to speak on this, although I'm sure there are hundreds of videos about creating a budget and how to move out on your own and things like that, so you can definitely check those for some more specific information, but I did write a few things down that I wanted to point out. So I think the basics is, how much money do you make every single month? Let's just use a random number at like $3,000 a month. From that, maybe you're paying $1,000 a month in rent. So now you're down to $2,000 a month. And then maybe another $500 of that goes towards car payments, student loan bills, credit card bills, paying your bills like water, electricity, things like that. Take another $500 maybe out of that. So from there you have about $1,500 left if those numbers are true to whatever your budget would be. To me, that is definitely enough money to live a happy life in Los Angeles. And the biggest thing I want to say is, consider what your life is actually going to be here. I mean, you don't want to move to Los Angeles and be living paycheck to paycheck in a way where you don't have enough money to actually go and do things. Part of the whole reason of moving to LA is definitely so that you can have nice restaurants to go out to, you can go out to bars with friends, you can go bowling, like you want to be able to do those activities. If you're just moving here with just enough money to get by, I would say don't move here. I mean, that's obviously up to you and what's important to you, obviously, but for me, I would not want to live in Los Angeles and not be able to actually enjoy Los Angeles. So definitely consider all of those things when creating your budget. You probably want to consider having a roommate. I feel like most people have a roommate when they first move to Los Angeles. I found my roommates when I first moved to LA through the college that I went to, so that made things really easy for me. But if you are moving here and you're not going to college, there are tons of Facebook groups where people are just looking for roommates in Los Angeles. They may have an empty room that they're looking to fill, or maybe you post in there and say, hey, I'm moving there next month. Does anyone have a place that I can move into? Obviously, you have to do that at your own risk, because moving in with a stranger obviously comes with checks and balances. There may be some really good things about them, like they're really kind, but they could be really messy. So you definitely want to consider those things and realize that it is obviously a risk, but definitely a great way to save some money and make a friend right away when you move to Los Angeles. So next up, I want to talk about actually finding your apartment. So probably the first thing would be making a list of non-negotiables. So things like that for me would probably be washer and dryer in unit, good security in the building. I would prefer an updated kitchen with updated appliances and things like that, but you have to decide that for yourself. Are updated appliances important to you? Are you fine with having just laundry in a laundry room and you can take your laundry there? Certainly having a washer and dryer in unit puts you in another level of price range for apartments. Do you have a car? Are you definitely going to need parking? When I had a car, that was a huge non-negotiable for me, is that I had to have parking on site in a secure garage where nothing would happen to my car and nothing would happen to me when I parked late at night and went inside of my building. So make that list, and then you want to visit sites. My favorite is probably apartments.com. I also have found apartments on Craigslist, but obviously that's a little bit more sketchy, a little bit more dangerous. And just as a general rule, bring someone with you when you're going to tour apartments. You never know. Anyone could put literally anything on the internet, and you don't want to put yourself in a dangerous situation, so always good to bring a friend with you just in case. Literally nothing bad has ever happened to me when touring apartments. I have toured so many apartments in Los Angeles, nothing bad has happened, but I always have a friend with me. I've never gone and looked at a place by myself because you just never know. So I feel like that's a pretty solid list of basics that you should consider when you're moving to LA. I did have a few little miscellaneous questions, so I'm gonna throw those in right now. One of them being, do I prefer Ubering everywhere or having a car? Because I did have a car for the first 5 years that I lived in LA, and then I sold my car and started primarily Ubering and taking public transit. I would say having a car is for sure the most convenient part. My car was just broken down. It was a goner, so I had to get rid of it. Otherwise, I definitely would have kept it. Ubering and taking public transit has been fine. It has made me take public transit more often. Not any buses, but I do take the subway anywhere that I can take the subway for the most part. So I work from home, which obviously affects the situation, because if I had to Uber to and from work every single day, that would really add up. But when I was doing the math about how much car insurance would cost and car payments every month, I actually spend less money Ubering to the places that I Uber to. That being said, I don't leave downtown that often. I don't take Ubers that often. So it really depends on how often you're going to be leaving your area, how available public transit is to you. I live right near 2 different subway stops, so it makes it very easy for me to take public transit. So I do think it's a personal preference. I would say bring your car if you have one. If you can afford to get a car, get one. But it's not impossible to be in Los Angeles without a car. The next miscellaneous question I had are, what are the people like? And I feel like this is such a huge question to try to tackle. I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet. LA has a really bad rep for just shitty people living here. I definitely have met some shitty people here, and I've met some really awesome people here. Also, in my small town, New Jersey, I met some really shitty people and I met some really cool people. In my opinion, you're going to meet shitty people everywhere and you're going to meet cool people everywhere. Now, do a lot of sort of fame-hungry, ladder climber, social climber people live in Los Angeles? Absolutely. I have met them, I have been friends with them, and stopped being friends with them because I realized that they weren't the kinds of people who I want to be around. And I also have my core group of friends, which are like some of my favorite people that I've ever met. It's up to you to attract the right kind of people. If you're looking to social climb and you're looking to sort of live that life and try to gain recognition, fame, and things like that, you may attract some shittier people. Versus if you're just sort of a chill person, you're probably gonna attract more chill people. So I don't know if that properly answered that question, but I have never had an issue meeting really great people here. So there you have it. That's everything that I'm going to touch on in this video. If you want me to touch on any of these things in more specifics, or if you have more questions about moving to Los Angeles, leave them down below. I'll try to respond to them in the comments. And if there's anything that I think would make a really solid video, I'll make another one of these if you guys like it. So let's do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications, and I'll see you in my next video.